Hi everyone, welcome to the weekly video. I delayed it from yesterday because I was waiting for some post, and then obviously there was some news which I'll come to in a minute. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you're in the UK, comment with a mention of a Bruce Lee movie memory or something that you've learned from the man, from his family, from the teachings of Jeet Kune Do. And this box set is still up for grabs. I think we need 45 more subscribers. 45 more subscribers will take us up to 200. You get that, you get Drive, and you get, I know it's a DVD, but it's a nice box set of the Die Hard trilogy from when it was a trilogy. And we all know the first three are the best. So that's available. Please like and subscribe and comment. UK people only. I just can't afford the post all over the place globally. I'm sorry, I can't do it. It is from the goodness of my heart, but I'm not made of money. Anyway, yesterday, a little bit later than I thought it would arrive, I got the 4 Film Noir Classics Volume 3 from Arrow Video. I've got Volume 1 and Volume 2. And as you already know, I aim to watch films from box sets all around my cinema room at all times. This has Calcutta, Ride the Pink Horse, Outside the Law and The Female Animal, all of which are new to me. I like to, when I can, make November Noirvember time, so I hope to schedule as much as possible for November, but I have the 5 Columbia Noirs from Indicator, he says, pointing off screen. I've got the Fuller box sets. I've got the other Arrow box sets. There's a wealth of material that I want to dive into, and like, I love film noir. I love Noirvember and love the opportunity to discover a lot of movies that I previously hadn't made time for, or even maybe been aware of. A lot of noirs are lean and mean, so that's handy. But then, as is always the way, the more that you enjoy and the more that you discover, the more that you then find out lies ahead of you on a long pathway through the annals of cinema. Dave from the podcast is always recommending that I watch Mexican noirs, and he's given me a list of titles. I saw one last year which I mentioned recently, The Kneeling Goddess. That was really good. We watched Twilight for the podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's part of the Mexican movie special, and I really enjoyed that. So I know that if I remember to cram them into the viewing schedule, then I should enjoy them. But also, I've got all my own stuff I want to watch. But also, there are other films that will become available in November that I'll want to watch and blog about, or check for the podcast, or, you know, do whatever I like with movies, whether it's just watching stuff for my own pleasure or reviewing them or discussing them on the podcast. So it's always an uphill battle, but I love it. And it is just the way my mind keeps working. I like to have a list of stuff to go through. I let a list to grow and grow and grow, and I know I'll never really get to the end of it. The bad news from yesterday, as I'm sure you've all heard now, William Friedkin passed away. He was in his the latter half of the 80s. I think he was 87. We have discussed the Exorcist movies in a podcast special, and I really enjoyed that conversation. I'm not telling everyone to go and listen to that. I'm just saying, really enjoyed that. I think we may have discussed Sorcerer. I can't recall. But this has reminded me that for a couple of years now, I've been meaning to rewatch To Live and Die in LA. I've got their French Connection and French Connection 2, the old DVD triple pack set with a bonus disc, and the recent furor over that being changed, censored for online streaming, reminded me that I was lucky to have that on my shelf. And again, I've been meaning to rewatch the French Connection for years, and I've never seen the French Connection 2. I've seen Cruising. I really enjoyed Killer Joe. I was lucky enough to see that at a preview screening at the Edinburgh International Film Festival. Bug is really interesting. what I think on the podcast we've generally agreed is that William Friedkin, no matter what you thought of each movie, obviously if you don't like horror, you're not necessarily wanting to dive into The Exorcist. If you aren't really drawn into the realistic and textured world he provided for The French Connection, it's not guaranteed to win you over. I really like at least all of his films, but he would always make pretty interesting material that was aiming to entertain people, but also aimed squarely at adults, and that becomes kind of rarefied air. You will find people who do admirably make movies aimed squarely at adults nowadays and throughout every decade, but to do it in a way that blends it with the sensibility of maybe a non-art house approach. You know, The Exorcist is a horror movie, and it's an outright horror movie. French Connection has some really thrilling set pieces in there, and does that. Same as Sorcerer. I still prefer Wages of Fear. I know that some people think Sorcerer is an amazing remake. It's a great film, but I think Wages of Fear is just much more tense and fantastic. But Sorcerer's a great remake and has you on the edge of your seat at times. I think Friedkin sort of brought these two elements together in a way that few other people have, you know, in terms of this is a film that should entertain and provoke thought, and also this is aimed squarely at adults. And as I say, other people who've done that and other people who I admire for doing that, maybe do it occasionally, maybe don't have the same size filmography to compare to at the moment. So Friedkin felt like a one-of-a-kind for that, and for where he stands in that lofty position, kind of on a plinth that he built himself. I love Friedkin, and I would gently mock his attitude when we were discussing The Exorcist. If you watch any of the making of documentaries or any of the behind-the-scenes efforts on Friedkin movies, they are wonderful. You'll get a horrific tale. Ellen Burstyn wasn't happy at being pulled back harder, or maybe a little bit earlier in a scene in The Exorcist, hurt her back. You know, you get these stories of, you know, she was unhappy with the stunt guy pulling the rope. She was in pain. Cut to William Friedkin, but we got the shot. French Connection, racing through the streets, people possibly in peril, you know, the public at large unaware. I don't think there were permits, and it was just crazy enough that Friedkin was in the car to prove that, you know, he would do that as well. People scared, people endangered. Cut to William Friedkin, but we got the shot. It's just brilliant. That's all he was after at all times. And love or hate him, you have to admire the lengths that he went to get the impressive results on screen that he got. So yeah, I'm not going to put loads of links below to any time we've discussed Friedkin. I hope you can delve around and find lots of different tributes from people, different articles, but there's some good stuff out there when it comes to the films he's made and commentary tracks that he provided for them, explorations of his filmography. So treat yourself to that and you'll be seeing some good stuff. The other thing I wanted to mention, I've been getting a bit of love from other people lately, so a bit more pressure for these videos really, but I'd like to thank, you may have already heard last week was me with the Watch Skip Plus crew, Jose and Justin, and that was wonderful. We were discussing Oppenheimer. It was different from the Raiders of the Podcast format, and I really enjoyed that, so I will try and put a link to that episode below. Dawn of the Dead, again, I really like her stuff. It's very much coming from a place of positivity and love, and either trying to make people aware of some gems within the horror genre, or allowing her to enjoy some recollections of movies that most people will be familiar with, in a way that spoilers don't so much matter. But if there are major spoilers, she will try and give a heads up. And then Death by DVD, Harry there, he and I were chatting recently, and he finally got around to uploading a video discussing Barbenheimer, which was great, because I've enjoyed seeing everyone's take on the Barbenheimer phenomenon. I don't usually watch podcast videos because I listen to podcasts a lot at work, but I made an exception, and it was worth it, because there's some good wardrobe choices there for Harry. I didn't even realise the thematic approach to the movie discussion until there was a fantastic wipe moving from the Oppenheimer discussion to the Barbie discussion. Well done. That is way more than my editing skills would allow for. These are people I enjoy listening to as well, including the Not a Bomb podcast guys, Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema, so many others. And I know that I'm often saying, if I'm negative about someone or not appreciating what they do, I will just try not to mention them. So I don't. But I've listened to a few other podcasts now where they are maybe a little bit sort of rambling and as unfocused as we are at Raiders of the Podcast sometimes. You know what? I kind of like that. I don't mind if you don't have every bit of information at your fingertips. I don't mind if you make mistakes. Hopefully you can correct them before the podcast ends. You know, I've said many times, I'm terrible with names and exact dates. When we're recording the podcast, I try and have about 10 or 12 tabs up, including my own reviews sometimes, to remind me. What I did notice today, I was listening to one or two podcast episodes, and you may have found this yourself. Do me a favour, and if you listen to a podcast about movies where they really reel off a lot of contextual information about the film that's aside from their own opinion, whether it's a full plot summary or whether it's behind the scenes information, just at least once, just have a look at the Wikipedia page for whatever's being discussed. And then if you notice that that Wikipedia page entry is strikingly familiar to the words that they're speaking on the podcast, it's up to you whether you enjoy that or not. Personally, I would rather have someone's rambling, maybe even disagreeable opinion on something than have a real spreadsheet of facts and information that I can look up myself on the Wikipedia page. I love a factoid. I love to drop the occasional factoid in when we're recording the podcast. I think people know that about me by now. I also love a pun. So you get these things during the podcast that, you know, we're often on shaky ground. We can't remember everything. We might be circling a point until our brain sharpens the focus and we can see it more clearly. That is our approach, and it's not for everyone, and that's fine. But when I'm listening to other podcasts, I don't mind hearing that, because I'm hearing someone give their opinion that I won't necessarily find in every other movie review site, every other podcast, or on the Wikipedia pages. So I just thought that was an interesting little observation that came to mind today. So anyway, the reminder, the highlights. 200 subscribers and someone gets picked for this little selection. Do drop a comment about Bruce Lee movies, Brandon Lee moments, or if you've done any martial arts, but no threats please. Do feel free to suggest films that we might want to cover on the podcast that you think we should cover. I can also drop a letterbox list that shows what we've already covered. And yeah, went through the one bit of post that arrived this week, and I mean, I rarely go along with the multitude of tributes and personal comments / obituaries that go with film figures passing away. It depends on how they have impacted on your lives and what they've done. Obviously, Paul Rubens as well passed away the other weekend. Although he wasn't, I would say, as big a figure here in the UK, he cast a huge shadow over the lives of many who grew up with his comedy and just seemed like a really positive figure for the most part. But William Friedkin, I think he deserved a little bit of time in this video, in this week's video, and I hope you don't mind this being delayed by a day. I hope you don't mind having sat through my rambling once again, and we shall see what turns up next week.